The last stand of Nexus Prime, the twin sons of Nexus Prime cast their gentle light across the floating gardens of New Avalon, where Captain Alina Rodriguez stood watching children from 6 different species play together in the crystalline parks. The human officer smiled as she observed young Aquarians, with their blue-scaled skin swimming through the air alongside feathered Zephyrian youngsters, while small Terran children laughed and chased glowing Lumina sprites through the gardens. This was what the Galactic Coalition stood for: peace, cooperation, and hope for the future. Alina had been stationed at Nexus Prime for 3 years as the human liaison officer. Most Coalition species still viewed humans with suspicion. Earth was classified as a death world, a planet so dangerous that its inhabitants were considered too violent and unpredictable for civilized society. Only a few hundred humans served throughout Coalition space, and they were watched carefully. Alina had worked hard to prove that humans could be trusted, that they valued peace as much as any other species. The communication device on her wrist buzzed urgently. Alina tapped it, and the worried face of Ambassador Thane Keller appeared in the hologram. The Aquarian diplomat's normally calm blue features were tense with fear. "Captain Rodriguez, you need to get to the command center immediately. We have a situation." Alina ran through the gleaming corridors of the Nexus Prime command station, her boots echoing against the polished floors. The command center buzzed with activity as officers from different species worked frantically at their stations. The main display showed the edge of the star system, where a massive fleet of dark ships was approaching. "Status report," Alina called. Out as she entered, Ambassador Keller turned to face her, his gill slits fluttering with anxiety. Long-range sensors detected them 20 minutes ago. "It's the Shadow Collective, over 4,000 ships." Alina felt her blood run cold. The Shadow Collective was a brutal empire that had been expanding across the Outer Rim for months. They conquered worlds not for resources or territory, but for the simple joy of destruction. They enslaved the strong, killed the weak, and left nothing but ash in their wake. "What about our defenses?" Alina asked. 300 ships, replied Commander Voss, a tall Zephyrian with silver feathers. "We've sent distress calls to all Coalition sectors, but the nearest reinforcements are weeks away." Alina studied the tactical display. The Shadow Collective fleet was massive, their ships angular and covered in weapon ports. They looked like metal predators hungry for prey. The Coalition fleet, by comparison, was small and designed for exploration and peacekeeping, not warfare. "We need to begin immediate evacuation," Alina said. "How many civilians are in the system?" 12 billion, Keller answered quietly, "on 7 worlds and 43 space stations." The number hit Alina like a physical blow. 12 billion lives, and they had perhaps hours before the Shadow Collective arrived. Their transport ships could maybe evacuate 1 million people before the enemy reached them. Captain Rodriguez called Lieutenant Zara, a young Lumina whose light form was flickering with stress. "We're receiving a transmission from the approaching fleet." "Put it through," Alina ordered. The main screen filled with the image of General Vex Morvac, the Shadow Collective's supreme commander. He was a massive creature with grey armored skin and 4 arms, each ending in razor-sharp claws. His red eyes gleamed with malicious intelligence. "Greetings, Coalition weaklings," Morvac's voice was like grinding stone. "I am General Vex Morvac of the Shadow Collective. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Those who submit will be enslaved. Those who resist will be destroyed. There will be no negotiation." Alina stepped forward. "General Morvac, I AM Captain Alina Rodriguez of the Coalition Defense Force. These are civilian populations. They pose no threat to you. Please, allow them to evacuate. Morvac's laugh was horrifying. Ah, a human. How interesting. I have heard of your species. You call yourselves warriors, but you serve these weak creatures. You have forgotten what it means to be strong. His expression turned serious. There will be no evacuation. Fear makes victory taste sweeter. You have 1 hour. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Begin evacuation procedures immediately, Alina ordered. Prioritize children and elderly. Get as many people off-world as possible. The next hour passed in a blur of desperate activity. Transport ships launched continuously, carrying refugees to jump points where they could escape to other systems. But for every ship that left, thousands more people waited their turn. Alina stood in the communication center, her hands flying over the controls. She was setting up a long-range transmission to Earth, using every amplifier and relay station. In the system, the message would take weeks to reach home, but she had to try. This is Captain Alina Rodriguez of the Coalition Defense Force, stationed at Nexus Prime. She spoke into the recorder. We are under attack by the Shadow Collective. 12 billion innocent beings are about to be slaughtered. Our defenses are insufficient. This may be our final transmission. She paused, thinking of home. Earth was 47 light-years away, a blue world where humanity had learned to survive against impossible odds. If anyone receives this message, know that we fought to the end. The Coalition stands for peace, but sometimes peace must be defended with strength. If you can hear this, if there's anyone out there who cares about justice, please help them. Help the ones who will survive this day. Alina encrypted the message with humanity's highest security codes and sent it racing toward Earth. Then she returned to the command center as the Shadow Collective fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The Coalition fleet moved to intercept, their ships forming a defensive line around the populated worlds. Alina watched from the command station as the first shots were fired. The Coalition ships fought bravely, using their superior speed and maneuverability to strike at the larger shadow. Collective vessels, but they were outnumbered 15-1. One by one, the Coalition ships were destroyed. Their shields failed under the massive firepower of the Shadow Collective weapons. Alina watched friends die, saw ships she had served on torn apart by enemy fire. The defense line crumbled. Captain, Commander Voss said, his voice shaking, "The enemy has broken through. They're heading for the inhabited worlds." Alina looked at the tactical display. Shadow Collective ships were descending on New Avalon, their weapons already firing on the civilian population. The floating gardens, where she had watched children play, were burning. All remaining ships. This is Captain Rodriguez, she broadcast on all frequencies. Form up on my position. We're going to make our final stand. The last 30 Coalition ships gathered around the command station. They were damaged, their crews exhausted, but they were not ready to surrender. Alina thought of the children she had seen playing in the gardens, of the billions of innocent beings counting on them. Today, we may die, she told her crew, but we will die fighting for something greater than ourselves. We die for peace. We die for hope. We die so that others might live. The final battle was short and brutal. The Coalition ships fought with desperate courage, ramming enemy vessels when their weapons failed, using their ships as weapons when all else was lost. Alina's command station was the last to fall, its hull cracking under the weight of enemy fire. As the station began to break apart, Alina made her way to the emergency communication array. With the last of the station's power, she sent one final message toward Earth. "This is Captain Alina Rodriguez. Nexus Prime has fallen. 12 billion dead. Remember us. Remember what we stood for. And if you have any mercy in your hearts, avenge us." The station exploded in a ball of fire, and Alina Rodriguez was gone. But her message was already racing through space, carrying humanity's first news of the Shadow Collective's atrocities. On Earth, 47 light-years away, someone was listening. Someone was preparing to answer. The Shadow Collective celebrated their victory as they stripped Nexus Prime of its resources and enslaved its survivors. General Morvac stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the burning worlds below. He had won another easy victory against the weak coalition species, but he had made one critical error. He had underestimated what humans were capable of when their friends were in danger. The message from Captain Rodriguez would soon reach Earth, and when it did, humanity would remember why they were called Deathworlders. The Shadow Collective had no idea what was coming for them. Asterisk. The Deathworlder response, Admiral Sarah Ironwolf Mitchell, stood in the war room of Terra Station, humanity's primary military command center, reading the decoded message from Nexus Prime for the third time. The words of Captain Alina Rodriguez seemed to burn into her mind. 12 billion dead. Remember us. Remember what we stood for. And if you have any mercy in your hearts, avenge us. The room was filled with Earth's highest-ranking military officers, all of them staring at the holographic display showing the last images from Nexus Prime. The floating gardens were ash. The crystal cities were rubble. The Shadow Collective had turned a paradise into a graveyard. "How long ago did this happen?" asked General Harrison, the head of Earth's ground forces. 6 weeks, replied Dr. Marcus Chen, the head of Earth's Xenobiology Department. The message just reached us. By now, the Shadow Collective has probably attacked dozens of other systems. Admiral Mitchell was a veteran of humanity's wars. She had fought in the Titan Rebellion, the Mars Independence War, and the Asteroid Belt campaigns. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her grey eyes were cold as winter steel. She had earned the nickname Iron Wolf during the siege of Europa Station, where she had held off an entire rebel fleet with just 3 ships. "What do we know about this Shadow Collective?" she asked. Dr. Chen activated the holographic display. "They're a warrior empire from the Outer Rim. They've been expanding for the past year, conquering everything in their path. They don't take prisoners, don't negotiate, and they don't show mercy. They exist only to destroy." "And the Coalition?" Mitchell asked. "The Coalition Defense Force was designed for peacekeeping and exploration. They're good people, but they're not warriors. They don't understand what they're facing." Admiral Mitchell looked around the room at her officers. These were men and women who had grown up on Earth, a world where everything tried to kill you. They had fought gravity storms, survived in frozen wastelands, and battled through toxic atmospheres. They were products of a death world, and they were proud of it. "Recommendations?" she asked. "We have treaties with the Coalition," said Colonel Martinez, the head of Special Operations. "They helped us during the Proxima crisis. We owe them more than that," Dr. Chen added. "Alina Rodriguez was one of ours. She volunteered for the liaison program. She gave her life trying to protect innocent people. If we don't respond, we're telling the galaxy that human lives don't matter." General Harrison leaned forward. "Admiral, we have the largest fleet in human history. 2,000 ships, all armed with the latest weapons. We've been preparing for war since the Proxima crisis. Maybe it's time to remind the galaxy why they call us Deathworlders." Admiral Mitchell stood up slowly. "Dr. Chen, I need everything you can find about the Shadow Collective. Their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses." "Colonel Martinez, I want intelligence on their current positions." "General Harrison, begin mobilizing all ground forces." She looked at each officer in turn. "Gentlemen, we're going to war, and we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten our friends." The next 3 days saw the largest military mobilization in human history. Ships from every human colony converged on Earth. The massive dreadnought Valor, humanity's largest warship, led a fleet of destroyers, cruisers, and support vessels. Marines from Mars, pilots from the Belt, and engineers from the outer colonies all volunteered for the mission. But this wasn't just about military might. Earth's top scientists worked around the clock to develop new weapons specifically designed to fight the Shadow Collective. Dr. Chen's team analyzed captured alien technology, while military engineers created new armor and shields. Admiral Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Valar as the human fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. 2,000 ships stretched out around her, their hulls gleaming in the light of Earth's sun. Each ship was crewed by humans who had volunteered to travel 47 light-years to fight for people they had never met. "All ships, this is Admiral Mitchell," she broadcast on all frequencies. "We're not just fighting for the Coalition. We're fighting for the idea that innocent people deserve to live in peace. We're fighting for the memory of Captain Elena Rodriguez and every Coalition officer who died defending Nexus Prime. We're fighting to show the galaxy that humanity stands with the weak against the strong." She paused, looking out at the fleet. "Today, we remind the universe why they call us Deathworlders. All ships, jump on my mark. 3.2.1. Jump." The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, racing toward the Coalition frontier at maximum speed. The Shadow Collective had spent the weeks since Nexus Prime conquering system after system. General Morvac's forces had grown to over 6,000 ships, and they were approaching the Coalition's core worlds. The Coalition Defense Force was in full retreat, unable to match the enemy's firepower. Morvac stood on his flagship's bridge, studying reports from his scouts. The next target was the Harmony system, home to the Coalition's main shipyards. Once he took those, the Coalition would be finished. "General," called his aide, "we're receiving strange readings from the edge of the system. Something just dropped out of hyperspace." Morvac turned to the tactical display. 2,000 ships had appeared at the system's edge, but they weren't Coalition vessels. These ships were different-angular, aggressive, built for war rather than exploration. "What species uses ships like those?" Morvac demanded. "Unknown, sir, but they're broadcasting a message on all frequencies." "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of Admiral Mitchell. She was sitting in what looked like a command chair, her grey eyes staring directly at the camera. Behind her, the bridge of the Valar bustled with activity. "General?" "Morvac," Mitchell said, her voice calm and cold. "I am Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force. 6 weeks ago, you murdered 12 billion innocent beings at Nexus Prime. Among them was Captain Elena Rodriguez, a citizen of Earth and a friend to all peaceful species." Morvac studied the human admiral. She looked small and weak compared to his massive frame, but there was something in her eyes that reminded him of a predator. "You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally," Mitchell continued. "If you refuse, we will destroy every ship in your fleet. This is your only warning." Morvac laughed, the sound echoing through his bridge. "Humans, the Deathworlders, finally show themselves. I have 6,000 ships. Human, you have 2,000. Mathematics is not on your side." Mitchell smiled, and the expression was colder than space itself. "General, you're about to learn why. We're called Deathworlders. Earth Defense Force, attack." The battle that followed would be remembered as the greatest space battle in galactic history. The human fleet moved with precision and coordination that shocked the Shadow Collective. They didn't fight like the Coalition forces, trying to minimize damage and avoid casualties. They fought like predators, striking at weak points and exploiting every advantage. The human ships were smaller than the Shadow Collective vessels, but they were faster and more maneuverable. They used tactics that seemed impossible: ramming attacks, close-range strikes, and coordinated swarm assaults that overwhelmed the enemy's defenses. Admiral Mitchell commanded the battle from the bridge of the Valar, her voice calm and steady as she directed the fleet. "Beta Squadron, hit their left flank. Gamma Squadron, protect the cruisers. Alpha Squadron, follow me, we're going for their flagship." The Valar led a group of heavy cruisers straight toward Morvac's command ship. The Shadow Collective flagship was 3 times the size of the human dreadnought, but Mitchell didn't hesitate. She ordered her ship to ram the enemy vessel. "At full speed, Admiral will be destroyed," called her tactical officer. "Not if we do this right," Mitchell replied. "All power to forward shields. Prepare for collision." The Valar struck the Shadow Collective flagship like a spear, its reinforced hull punching through the enemy's armor. The impact sent shockwaves through both ships, but the human vessel held together. Mitchell's Marines poured into the enemy ship, fighting their way toward the bridge. On the enemy flagship, General Morvac couldn't believe what he was seeing. These humans were fighting like demons, showing no fear of death. They turned every battle into a close-quarters nightmare, using their smaller size and superior reflexes to devastating effect. "How are they so strong?" demanded one of his officers. "They're from a death world," Morvac replied, understanding finally dawning. "They're not just warriors, they're survivors. They've been fighting for their lives since the day they were born." The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The human fleet systematically destroyed the Shadow Collective ships, using tactics that the enemy couldn't counter. When the firing finally stopped, fewer than 100 Shadow Collective vessels remained, and they were fleeing in panic. "Admiral?" Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Valar, looking out at the wreckage of the enemy fleet. Her ship was damaged but intact, and her crew was cheering. They had won the first major victory against the Shadow Collective, but more importantly, they had avenged their fallen comrade, Asterisk. "All ships, this is Admiral Mitchell," she broadcast. "Shadow Collective fleet has been destroyed. Nexus Prime has been avenged, but our work is not finished. We came here to protect the innocent, and we're going to finish the job. Over." The following weeks, the human fleet moved through Coalition space, hunting down the remaining Shadow Collective forces. They liberated occupied worlds, freed enslaved populations, and showed the galaxy that humanity would not stand by while innocence suffered. The Coalition species watched in amazement as the humans fought with a ferocity and determination they had never seen before. These were the same people they had called too dangerous for civilized space, But now they were using that danger to protect the weak. General Morvac was captured during the final battle at the Crimson Nebula. As he was led away in chains, he looked at Admiral Mitchell with something approaching respect. "You fight like demons," he said. "I underestimated you." "No," Mitchell replied. "You underestimated what we're fighting for. We're not just warriors, General. We're protectors, and we'll always be here when the innocent need defending." As the human fleet prepared to return to Earth, they left behind a galaxy forever changed. The Coalition species no longer saw humans as dangerous outcasts, but as guardians Deathworlders, who had chosen to use their strength to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Captain Elena Rodriguez was gone, but her sacrifice had awakened something in humanity. The message she had sent in her final moments had reached home, and home had answered. The Deathworlders had come to save the galaxy, and the universe would never be the same. Asterisk.